In the earliest moments, something appeared part of space and time, something so strange with so many people, and so many bright enough to shake the very fundamentals of cosmology. When the James Webb Space Telescope turned its gaze toward the edge of time, it caught something we had never seen before. Countless glowing red dots in the distance, embers dotted across the cosmic canvas. However, these were not stars. They didn't look like galaxies too. In fact, their very existence seemed impossible, in violation of the rules of structure, light, gravity, and time. For over a 2-year period, these tiny red spots baffled astronomers, suggesting that the physical laws as we know them may not always have applied. As new observations come to light, a startling new truth is emerging. What if in the beginning of the universe there were different regulations? What if something else entirely existed in its infancy? It started with what appeared to be a glitch. In late 2022, the James Webb Space Telescope began delivering images filled with tiny hazy red points, yet ridiculously bright. They weren't galaxies moving away from us with a redshift. These objects were red because they were covered in thick red light-swallowing clouds of cosmic dust, each absorbing additional wavelengths of light, and they weren't rare. These tiny red spots appeared in nearly every deep image Webb took. However, when astronomers computed their distances, what they found was even more disheartening. These baffling objects existed approximately 600 million years after the Big Bang and vanished after only 1 billion years. That window is cosmically small. However, in that brief era, these dots erupted into being across the entire universe before vanishing completely. What were they? Why were they so bright? And most importantly, how could such small objects contain the might of a galaxy? Scientists initially assumed that these dots were merely dense small galactic systems in their early stages, like our Milky Way. However, the figures did not add up. They released too much light. The inferred mass was too high. Their size less than 1% of our galaxies, yet with star counts rivaling the largest known structures. That degree of stellar density ought to have torn them apart. Stars colliding with stars collapsing into black holes, bursting with energy that should have ended their own existence. This was a paradox. The physical constraints of the universe claimed that these galaxies could not exist. Not like this, not so soon. But Webb wasn't lying. These dots were real. The theories failed. Some astronomers inquired whether they were seeing effects of dark matter or the lack thereof in interactions among basic particles. Others spoke of exotic physics, new forces, hidden dimensions, or relics from a pre-Big Bang universe. If these structures were composed of stars, then something was incredibly wrong in our understanding of time, mass, and matter. Then came the most radical theory of all. These weren't galaxies. They were monsters. Supermassive black holes born absurdly rapidly, expanding unimaginably, and buried beneath clouds of gas and dust. The dots were not glowing stars. They were blazing because of accretion disks, massive spheres of matter spiraling into black holes so massive they warped the entire space. This would explain their compact size and overwhelming brightness, but it raised a new difficulty. How do these voids form so quickly? In the present-day universe, central black holes make up a tiny fraction of a galaxy's mass, but in these ancient red dots, the black holes represented nearly all of the mass. This flips every rule of galactic evolution. Black holes were not expanding within galaxies. Perhaps galaxies were forming around black holes. That would mean black holes appeared first. If true, this may indicate that the universe's early days did not just change, they erupted into complexity, driven by gravitational monsters unlike any we've ever seen. Still, skepticism remained. Without definitive evidence, scientists required more than speculations. Then they found it hidden in the water vapor. When astronomers studied the emission lines of these little red dots, they noticed something strange. The hydrogen signals, the Balmer lines, were thick, far thicker than anticipated. This was a smoking gun. In astronomy, broader emission lines mean motion, high speed, violent rotation. The Doppler effect on the scale of the galaxy showed that the only way gas could move that quickly was if it were circling something with immense weight. In each instance, it pointed to a black hole, a huge one. In fact, the gas was moving 10 times, as quickly as it does around the black hole at the center of our own galaxy. No star cluster could explain that. No baby galaxy could mimic that kind of speed. This was the final verification. These were not star factories. They were black hole engines, devouring matter in the shadows of the early universe and doing so in ways that defied every known model of cosmic growth. Astrophysics rules had just been broken not by theory but by observation. A further, even more ominous realization started to emerge. What if these red dots were not exclusive to the ancient universe? What if these black holes never truly disappeared, but simply vanished from sight? One reason these ancient structures puzzled astronomers for so long was because they did not produce X-rays, the signature byproduct of black hole activity. That alone cast doubt on the black hole hypothesis until a connection was made. The radiation never escapes. Smothered, it speaks in a mute voice. Additionally, silence has obscured an entire era of cosmic evolution, a hidden period in which black holes, developed unseen, fed by enormous reservoirs of matter, slowly constructing the monstrous centers of galaxies. James Webb made it clear not only anomalies, but also a gap era in the history of the universe when light was used up more quickly than it could move and where the strongest objects in existence were cloaked in invisibility, in space. Additionally, this time period may not be over because the process happened once. It may still be happening now in galaxies so dusty, so distant, that simply put we haven't noticed. This revelation forces us to ask a frightening question. Have we looked around at the wrong places at the wrong time? For decades, astronomers have built models of galaxy formation, star birth, and the expansion of the universe using visible light and reliable data. However, James Webb is revealing a much more complicated picture. An early universe dominated by chaotic growth, veiled in darkness and driven by strong forces of gravitation. These are more than just a few tiny red dots of curiosity. They serve as a model for traumatic beginnings, a time when galaxies were ripped apart, not built with care, shaped by forces that didn't wait for the rules to catch up. It hints that many of our deepest assumptions about when and how galaxies and stars first formed, assembled, and how long black holes take to grow could be billions of years off. The internet has provided access to a realm of brutal acceleration in areas where physics played by different rules or maybe no rules at all. And if so, what else may be concealed beyond that window waiting to test not only our theories but every underlying principles of what we think space and time are? And then they were gone. Every single hundreds, if not thousands of these red dots scattered across the sky vanished from the cosmic record just 1.6 billion years after the Big Bang. Not briskly, not gradually. They vanished, changed into something else. But to what end? The most probable choices are quasars, brilliant galactic cores fueled by dark matter. However, even that transition is abrupt, like skipping sections in a book. There was a trigger for these compact objects to burn through their filthy cocoons, exposing and reshaping their luminous cores in galaxies. Perhaps star formation was pushed outward, thinning the gas. Possibly violent mergers deconstructed the structure. Or maybe the objects simply exhausted their fuel, collapsing into quieter, colder forms. Whatever happened, it left no survivors. We see nothing like these red dots now, none in nearby galaxies, not in any modern black hole system. They come from an era that has passed away, where physics and unchecked growth coexisted and were compelled to submit to an authority higher than gravity, something fundamental that we may never see again. In a completely unrelated survey, researchers, cataloging strange compact galaxies, stumbled upon something eerily familiar: green peas. Unlike the red dots, these exist in the more recent universe. However, they share some frightening similarities: high density, intense emissions, and a brief presence. Despite differences in epoch and color, some astronomers now think they might be the ancestors of those earlier monsters. Perhaps fragments, perhaps merely reflections of the same thing happening again, in a different era. But the key point remains: if tiny red dots were possible then, and if green peas are still around, how many other phases of cosmic evolution have we completely missed? How many entire species of structures in the galaxy are now unseen, unrecorded, and misunderstood? Webb does more than just capture distant light. It's illuminating the gloom, the remnants of previously unknown realities unaccounted for. Moreover, the more we stare, the deeper it goes into those shadows. Its clear physics is not flawed. It is larger than we ever imagined. And the early universe, its wild frontier, was never intended for the small red dots to endure. They never existed in the equations, not in the models at all. They were not included in the beautiful diagrams taught in textbooks or the orderly timelines of cosmic history. And yet they're real-etched into the first billion years of the universe like scars in space-time. What James Webb revealed is more than just a new chapter in astronomy. It's a cautionary tale that the cosmos is more disorganized, more violent and more enigmatic than we ever dared to imagine. These black hole-powered anomalies destroyed our comprehension of the growth of galaxies, how matter acts, and how light moves through the fog of creation. For decades, we believed the laws of physics were universal, fixed, immutable. But now we must ask the impossible. What if those rules were made in the midst of chaos, not in tranquility? Suppose the universe did not evolve according to rules, but rather by rebellion. The James Webb Space Telescope has shown us more than just the world. It demonstrates how little we truly know about where we came from and how much of reality is concealed, awaiting detection in wavelengths we are only just beginning to decode. The little red dots are gone, but their legacy endures not as a problem but as a surprise, a keyhole glimpse into a universe that will not be controlled. Where light lies, physics changes and time burns at the edge of reason. What then does the universe conceal? Please share your opinions in the comments section. Do you believe these black holes rewrite cosmic history? Or do you believe that we've only scratched the surface of something far deeper, an aspect of the physical laws unable to be contained? If the video was helpful to you,